Many of us who work day jobs in Malaysia are protected under the Employment Act 1955, which guarantees us our rights as workers under a company, such as annual leave, working hours, maternity leave, and a right to resignation. However, very few Malaysians are aware of the fact that domestic helpers do not enjoy the same protection under this law. This is nothing new. In fact, it has been criticized for many years, and improvements have been slow to come by or are non-existent. It also made things extremely difficult for many domestic helpers, especially foreign workers, to seek justice for themselves when they are abused by their employers. Recently, Malaysia Kini broke the story of a Tan Sri who didn't just make his Indonesian maid work for an exhausting 18 hours a day, but also withheld wages for 12 years, amounting to 100,600 ringgit. Not too long ago, KiniTV visited a lesser-known part of the Indonesian embassy in Kuala Lumpur, where a shelter is located. The facility has 5 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a shared bathroom. There are 29 women and 3 children currently living in this shelter. A house located nearby rented by the Indonesian embassy also houses another 12 women and 3 children. Among the over 40 cases of those seeking asylum with the embassy, about half of them are victims of wage abuse by their employers. We spoke to Rijal Al-Huda, the person in charge of the shelter, who told us that due to limited funding, the embassy is forced to choose who can move in to receive assistance.
We only hire a lawyer on case-by-case basis. So it's not for sure that we're going to hire a lawyer because budget is limited and we have to consider or calculate the pros and cons. So for some cases we hire lawyers, and usually when it comes to civil matters, like unpaid salaries, etc., we'll try our best first before we resort to hiring a lawyer. So we will try to contact the employer, the agents, and then if that doesn't, and we also for some cases we also talk to the Jabatan Tenaga Kerja.
The shelter is kept under strict management. Residents are not allowed to come and go as they please and cannot use mobile phones. While it is a safe space, life is still not easy for them. As these domestic workers are not protected by the 1955 Employment Act, the process for them to demand their salaries from their employers is long and tiring. One of the residents of this shelter has been here for 3 years. Some of them give up after a long wait, choosing to return to their homeland without the wages owed to them by their employers. When a domestic helper comes to Malaysia to live with an employer, it becomes all too easy for that employer to control everything about their lives. Mary left her hometown in Cambodia to come to Malaysia in 2009, hoping to make enough money for her son who was only 3 months old then. She did not know that it would be another 12 years until she could speak to her family again. Over the years, her employer forbade her from contacting the outside world. Her male employers also often harassed her.
But I stay here, I also not happy in my boss. Because my boss is no good, My boss no good to me. But my man really good. My boss is so good. When my man not at home, she touch my everything. Yeah. She touch my everything. My boss no good.
Even though Mary's female employer treated her better, the family she lived with paid her very little money.
My agent already talked to me. 1 month, boss pay money, pay salary to me 1 month, every month. But my boss didn't pay to me like that. Yeah, didn't pay to me like that. Until I working, how long already? To know almost 8 years, 9 years like that. Yeah, she only paid to me 50 ringgit or 100 or 200 to me like that.
After 10 years of being disconnected from the outside world, Mary managed to gain access to a mobile phone. She managed to make contact with a friend back home through TikTok and asked them to relay a simple message to her parents, to tell them she was not dead.
I say, my mother, my father, I didn't die. I come here so long. I really miss you too. So that.
With almost no protection under the Employment Act, after Mary managed to make contact with the outside world, she negotiated with her employer through Tenaganita to try to get the full salary she was owed. Little did she expect that this was the beginning of another problem. The female employer who let Mary use the phone was now blaming her for putting her family in trouble. Eventually, Mary was rescued by the Cambodian embassy in Kuala Lumpur and is now living in the shelter at Tenaganita. Tenaganita is facilitating mediation between her and her employer to recover the salary owed to her. At present, the domestic helpers recruitment agreements signed between the Malaysian government and the countries like Indonesia and Cambodia are the main documents governing the relationships between local employers and foreign domestic workers on a macro scale. They are no equivalent to the Employment Act 1955, which provides the much-needed broader protection for employees. Malaysia and Indonesia are eyeing to sign another domestic worker recruitment contract latest by January 2022 to bring in some 32,000 domestic helpers into Malaysia. While the various new deals under discussion are meant to introduce safeguards for the future, it remains unclear how quickly the authorities will address the suffering of those who have suffered the double whammy of unpaid wages and a long stint in limbo while fighting to reclaim their losses.